All right, another edition of Riding Home. We're going to try to get through the Snowpocalypse. You can't see it, but we will prove that we were riding in the middle of a snowstorm here on the way to Indianapolis. Georgia going to arrive tomorrow. Alabama will as well in Indianapolis. I was telling y'all, it feels really odd driving through a snowstorm to go to a college football national championship game.
Yeah, we were just in Fort Lauderdale a week ago eating breakfast outside. The sun was out. Everything was great. It was 5-star weather. This, not so much, but that's what it takes to cover the Dogs when they're winning big and have big games in early January. So, you know, we're out here roughing it, and I know that Georgia is ready for this game. We talked to the coordinators this past weekend. They're locked in. They're ready to go. Dan Lanning spoke with confidence, saying that they've got a game plan they think is going to work. Have to get after Bryce Young and get to him this time. They had 8 quarterback hurries and 4 tackle for losses in the SEC title game, but 0 sacks. He was able to escape when they did bring pressure and use his legs. So they have to not only contain him, but get to him this time. I think Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart has a plan because they seem very confident in the Zoom meetings that we had earlier this week. And so do the players. They know what's at stake. They know that they've been playing all year, practicing for this moment in this game, really. And we talked about it for forever now as we go over kind of a sketchy bridge.
Well, I'm worried about this guy.
Yeah. They have to beat Alabama eventually. Their time is coming. Got to get it done, Dylan. I mean, excuse me, Ryan. Sorry, dude. Sorry.
It's been a long trip.
It has. Sorry, Ryan.
It's just kind of funny that we're going through this extreme weather just to go into a different type of extreme weather. It's going to be just colder up there, but no snow or anything. And a complete opposite from what we experienced last week. I mean, total 180 in just a matter of a few days for us. So it's kind of bizarre. I think Georgia's the better team, and they're just going to have to play their game. I know I've kind of said that a lot, but me and Dean talked about it a couple times this week on riding home. Just that the biggest thing, as Matt just mentioned, is the pass rush. I think that's the biggest thing as far as looking at the SEC championship game and deciding, okay, what do we need to tune up to make this an easier game, a game where we have a better chance to win. I think that's where it starts. I think the guys are locked in. I think they've been locked in.
Why are you saying that?
You can just tell in these press conferences, the Kobe Dean, Stetson Bennett, all these guys, you can tell they're still on a mission regardless of where they're at, regardless of beating Michigan. You can start to tell that after they lost Alabama. Okay, I think that might have been some sort of wake-up call. I think they're locked in the way they were at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that they got complacent as the year went on, but it's a long year where they dominated everybody. You get slapped in the face by Alabama. I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call.
Well, Nick Saban said it was a wake-up call for his team.
Yeah.
He said after we lost to Texas A&M, the guys had to mature. They had to step up and realize that they weren't as good as what they thought they were going into it. And they played a lot better, especially ever since that fourth quarter of the Auburn game where they came back and won it. And Georgia came out with some fire. The offensive line played with a chip on their shoulder against Michigan. So did the defensive line. As a whole, that was the best team win that they've had all year.
Michigan?
Against Michigan, yeah. But, I mean, the Alabama players look locked in and ready, too. They won by 17 points. They should feel confident. I think Georgia's still favored to win the game. But you can never – it's hard to say that when they still have Nick Saban. They still have Bryce Young, who won the Heisman Trophy, only Alabama quarterback to do that, which sounds crazy after the last one they've had with Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Mac Jones. But it's going to be tough. Georgia has to play their ball, like Ryan said, the way they did against Michigan. They're going to have to get points early. This is not a game where Georgia needs to get down at all. If they go down double digits, you're going to feel it on the sidelines. You're going to feel it around the stadium. That nervousness, kind of the mental edge of the game is going to creep in. They've got to start fast. Don't turn the ball over. I think if they get to 150 rushing yards, they only rush for 109 in the SEC title game. And that's, when they start throwing the ball a little bit more in the second half. But keep running the football. Don't turn it over. And they're going to be in this game for 4 quarters.
So there's 2 things that y'all have been bringing up. One, pressure Bryce Young, force Alabama to have more turnovers in Georgia. That's only happened once in the last 4 games. Secondly, I do think the situation for Bryce Young is going to be different. I think they will pressure him. I think that they're going to try to make the running back beat him, and he might be able to. The problem for anybody that plays Alabama is they have multiple ways to beat you. And you can say that about Georgia too, frankly. I mean, we've seen them throw it all over people and run it all over people. They've used their defense against teams like Clemson. So there's a lot of different ways to win ball games. Really, more than anything, it's time. I mean, they're prepared to do it. They have prepared the whole time to do it, and they need to do it. I don't think that if they lose the game, it means that they won't do it. I think that's a kind of extremely elementary school thinking.
That if they don't win Monday night, they're never going to do it.
You could say the same thing about Alabama, and it would be absolutely crazy to say.
They have enough talent to win the game. I don't know if they have the coaching to win the game.
Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, looks like they almost had a couple times when they had nail-biting losses, but the last two have been blowouts. So they really have to change things around. You can scheme it all you want differently to get after him, but at the end of the day, guys have to get off blocks, guys have to create separation and do their job consistently. And I think we can say it's a line of trenches game, line of scrimmage game, but at the end of the day, Bryce Young can still sling it around, and that's what they're going to have to.
Well, it will be a line of scrimmage game. And the one thing I would say about that is if Georgia's controlling the line of scrimmage, they're controlling the game. And they have the players to do that. There's too many games that Alabama's played lately where they've permitted multiple sacks on Bryce Young. They are one of the most sacked teams in college football. Guess who sacks people almost more than anybody else? Georgia. And that they did not sack him speaks to two things. Number one, it's an outlier. But number two, he did a great job getting loose. So it's everything combined. You screw tight a couple of different things, and it's going to be a very different outcome. If you allow Alabama to get their jollies off with long touchdown scores, multiple long touchdown scores, they're going to win the game. I think it's completely understandable to expect Alabama to hit some big plays. They are Alabama. They're not going to get shut down. But you just have to limit those. If I'm not a college football coach, I would pressure him as much as he can, knowing that they're going to hit big plays and being okay with that. And just saying, well, we think we can survive with the pressures.
Ryan, if you're Kirby Smart, how do you win this game? What would you do?
That's the question, right, that everyone has. You got to rush more than 4 on more plays than you did in the first time around. You got to bring your guys. You have the most talent out of any front seven in the entire country. And it's unacceptable, really, that you couldn't even you barely touch Bryce Young the first time around. Your front seven's better than their offensive line. Your front seven's better than, it just destroyed the offensive line of the year in Michigan. So there's really no excuse. If I'm Kirby, it's about adjusting in game. You got to make the right calls. I thought that he abandoned the run. I thought him and Monken, I don't know whose decision that was, abandoned the run too early the first time around. They were running just fine. I thought it was effective enough. They panicked a little bit when they got down by double digits. You gotta spread it out to your best weapons. You gotta get Brock Bowers the ball. We saw him tear up Alabama the first time. You gotta get it to the guys you know can play really well against these teams. So Brock Bowers, James Cook, Jermaine Burton, guys like that need the ball in their hands often, and I think that's the key to beating them on offense.
So Todd Monken called a masterful game against Michigan. Can he replicate that? That's why he's here.
I think he can. The one thing we haven't seen this team do is come from behind, double digits. They haven't been behind pretty much the entire season, just against Alabama, and it's clear they didn't have the exact game plan for that. So my whole thing, if they want to win, they need to get out early. You don't want to go down double digits to Alabama, then feel like you have to throw some of your game plan out the window early on, because they still have to stick to it. Get James Cook and Kenny McIntosh the ball. They've just been playing better than Zamir right now. He's getting you the tough 3, 4, 5 yards, and he's great.
You're talking about explosive plays.
Explosive plays. Get those guys involved in the passing game. We've seen what both of them can do when they're matched up on linebackers down the field. Stetson's going to look their way. If James Cook is on a linebacker, Stetson's looking that way. So they give the offense something that Zamir kind of doesn't. But towards the end of the game, you want to crunch out first downs, first and goal situation. Yeah, Zamir's great for that. But they're going to have to get these guys the ball out in space.
Well, Stetson's going to have to play well. I think that's just sort of an understood. But you have to give him, you have to help your quarterback out. You got to give him the opportunity to play well. I would get Stetson as much look with his legs as you can that makes sense, and take it from there. Alabama's defense is playing way better than they did at the beginning of the season. The offense scored a lot against Georgia, against Auburn and Cincinnati. It wasn't that way. So I think what was the final against Cincinnati? 28 or 24?
20-something to 6.
Yeah.
27 to 6.
Yeah. So it wasn't some crazy deal that Alabama that they did with Georgia. So a lot of this felt like that game was an anomaly, an outlier. But what's not been an outlier is Alabama winning the game. So it's up to Georgia. It's all right there. As I've written about for a while now, it's time, and it's up to Kirby to figure out what is the best way to do it. There shouldn't be panic. They should be ready to play. And I know they prepared. These guys Ryan says they're locked in. We'll see when they get to the game. We'll see if Alabama, there's a lot of confidence over there too. So
for good reason,
particularly the fans.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why Las Vegas favors Georgia. That line will not budge from 3.
They have the better roster, but like Matt was saying, if you're getting up early, Georgia's been up early.
Hey man, some snowpocalypse.
We got 5.9 miles to
flex,
go here.
You gotta have a little flex about yourself, man.
We're getting there now. Let's go.
Anyway.
As Matt was saying, getting up early. The last 4 times they played, I think Georgia's had a lead early in the game, and
every single one.
It. Sometimes that was double digits.
Yes.
You have to maintain your energy and the momentum. You cannot turn the ball over against Alabama.
That's
Alabama
the real
for the
issue.
last 10 years is not a team you want to turn the ball over to. Once you get a turnover or 2, they almost never lose. I don't have the numbers on that, but I've watched Alabama play a lot of games over the last 10 years. And when they get a turnover, it's wraps.
Typically the better team gets turnovers. Georgia's only gotten the turnovers against them once in the 4 times they played. It was not the time that they were the better team, but they've only been the better team once. Let's see if Georgia wins the turnover better this time. Football's not that complicated. If you hold on to the ball and value your possessions, value the football, you are more likely to win than your foe. Stetson's got to play well. We got to see if Todd Monken's going to give him the capability to play well. Roll him out. How much do you use Brock Bowers? We were listening to Kirk Herbstreit on Part of My Take earlier, and he was saying, talking about George and Kieris and Jermaine Burton, how they're finally as healthy as they've ever been. This is not the same traditional Alabama defense we've seen.
Yeah.
Georgia scored 24. They were in position to score 35 against Alabama in the championship game. There are a lot of pieces that were left on the table that you can't do that.
I will say that if Alabama does beat Georgia, this is probably their worst national championship team we've seen from them.
It is.
There is definitely a window where Georgia can win it. I don't know if this Georgia team would beat the 2017 team. Maybe. I don't know. But this is a very, very good Georgia team going up against an Alabama team that can be beaten, has already been beaten.
Alabama team wasn't unbelievable either, though, if we're being honest.
Which one?
The 17 team.
No, it wasn't
the 20
that great.
team. The 20 team knocks those both out.
For sure.
The 20 Alabama team was legit. And the 12 Alabama team. Nick has put together great teams. Kirby has too. And you don't want to get into a situation where, you're Andy Landers dealing with Pat Summitt, and that in the entire time you just can't quite get around them. And right now is a great opportunity. Look at that. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That was impressive. Explain.
And the snowplow just flying right through the middle on the other side. Our roads have really
Should
kept
we get
up
off
here.
on this or keep going?
Yeah, we got to keep going. It's the next exit, but it's in 4.6 miles. So we're getting there. Lucky to have our side of the road.
Well, there's a
cleared
reason
off
why
little
I've not looked at the camera once.
Yeah. Good.
No, I think Georgia will win. I'm that dumb, and so I just think they're the better team, and that if
I knew after Michigan they were going to reel Dean Legge right back in there.
Well, I didn't pick them to win in 2017.
Yeah.
So let's not get too hyped up. I picked them to win in Atlanta this year, and I'm okay with that pick. I picked
that game fooled a lot of us. That game
Yeah.
almost didn't make sense when we were doing the riding home after that.
Well, Alabama played their best game of the year. And, you know, when is Georgia going to play its best game of the year? You know, usually you play them in tandems and when you get hot. But this is going to be about preparing. It's about Jamari, both Warrens, Cedric Van Pran. It's those guys. And I think we'll see a different structure defensively in the way they attack Alabama. You know, where those guys, there are a lot of explanations for why that game didn't go so well, but I think mainly they got out-schemed to some degree. They got out-coached. But the players didn't make plays either. I mean, it was both.
Yeah.
You can't have wide-open receivers.
Game plans on the coaches, executions on the players, but
Yeah.
They've been out-coached every time they played Alabama the last 4 games.
every game's exclusive to each other. This is a whole new game. I think that we're going to see a different defense. I think we're going to see a little bit of different offensive scheming.
I'm certain we're
and
going
I
to
think
see
we're
a
going to see a
different
little bit
defense.
of differences in Alabama too. So I don't think that this should be compared to that SEC championship so much. And you know, everyone's going to forget about that game if Georgia wins this
Yeah,
one. So
they sure will.
Just like 2017 Auburn.
Yeah, the SEC championship almost doesn't matter that much.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Mattered to them because they
It
got in
mattered a
because
lot
of
to
it.
Alabama because it earned them the way in which they totally, you know, earned. And I think that, you know, we're at a pivotal moment here in the next few years of college football because there's not a lot of teams that are built to challenge Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. And those three are going to be in some real fights over the next half decade or so. It looks like to me. We'll have to see. But, you know, Georgia needs to stamp its place right now. It's time. Those guys know it. And if they play the way they are capable of, they'll win. If they don't, they will hear about it for the rest of their lives. And it's just, you know, it's just a truth.
Yeah, they could all be legends. That's what Nolan Smith said. He said, you know, if we win this game, no one's going to be talking about 1980 as much. They're going to be talking about, you know, 2021 Dogs.
James Cook said the same
James
thing.
Cook, yeah, it might have been James, but I think Nolan mentioned something similar to that. So,
Fixing the fours up, man.
yeah, Kyrus Jackson said, "I know how much this means to the community and these people." He knows it as a Peach County kid as well as anyone.
Exactly. Well, look, I think we're gonna get to Indianapolis. We have finally arrived to our hotel in Kentucky, and I'm telling you right now, thank God. We only stopped once, right?
Yeah.
Since we
once.
started
only one
moving
dead stop.
from Athens, we only stopped once.
Oh, it says keep going straight.
Keep going? Okay. I'm going to concentrate on getting us off this road somehow. I see a police officer up there. And we're going to see you over on the website. Thanks for watching.